Hello everybody, it's me Julian, and in this short video I would like to provide you with an accessible introduction to what is arguably Lacan's most important idea, namely the objet petit a, or the object cause of desire. And whilst it's a difficult and highly abstract concept, what I'm going to try to do is to break it down into simple and accessible formulas, providing you with some concrete examples along the way. But I thought it might be fun to start with Slavoj Žižek's own definition of the objet petit a. He characterizes it as loss as its own object, a paradoxical object which redoubles its own lack and thereby appears to embody it. A wonderful definition, but by itself not very instructive unless you already know about psychoanalysis. And so I would propose that we start with a seemingly simple question, which is, how does desire work? i.e., why do we want things? And here, Freud and Lacan have two different answers to the same question. Lacan does what he usually does. He takes Freud's answer and he radicalizes it. Freud says that desire revolves around loss, which is to say, you want something because you've lost it. i.e., the child is separated from the mother, child wants to be reunited with the mother, therefore the child desires to be with the object of its desire, the mother. Lacan says that desire doesn't revolve around loss, it doesn't revolve around an object of desire, it revolves around lack, which is to say it revolves around an object cause of desire. Let me give you an example. Think about a collector. A collector is hunting the next acquisition for his collection. But as soon as he acquires it, he simply puts it away. It doesn't give him very much joy. He moves on to the next thing. In fact, many collectors are known to sell their entire collection as soon as it is complete. This is because a collector understands the difference between loss and lack, or between desire and drive. Loss revolves around the object of desire. I want X because I can't have it. Which means that as soon as you have it, it loses its desire. Whereas if you're collecting something, then the acquisition simply leads to another acquisition. In other words, it revolves around not loss of the object of desire, but lack as a constitutive factor of desire itself. In fact, in psychoanalytic terms, we've made the transition from desire to drive, or what Lacan would characterize as death drive. And here we have what is perhaps the simplest definition of the objet petit a. The objet petit a is not the object of desire, it is the object of drive. In fact, it is the impossible object cause of drive by which loss has to be staged repeatedly so as to sustain desire. Let me give you another accessible example. What is the easiest way to lose interest in something or someone? Well, arguably, it's to get the very thing you want. Think about it from a romantic perspective. Kafka once said that when he falls in love, he puts that person on a pedestal so high above him that he feels like he will never reach it. In other words, this is love as idealization. Love is the impossible object. Whereas Don Giovanni in Mozart's opera loves anyone. He's a great Casanova. He has multiple partners each and every day. And every time he has a partner, he writes their name or has their name written on a list. Here we have the transition from desire to drive. Kafka, who idealizes his love as the impossible, unattainable object of his desire, functions on the level of desire, which is to say, I love her because I can't have her. Don Giovanni in Mozart's opera sleeps with anyone, and yet the true object of his affection is not the romantic partner, it is the list. He is working for the list, on behalf of the list. In other words, he has become a collector of romantic amours. Here we have the transition from desire to drive. Desire is revolving around a loss Drive is when you transcribe the loss back into a constitutive pursuit, its own goal, an end in itself, i.e., its own object. And here we have once again the objet petit a. If the object of desire is the object of loss, then the objet petit a is the object which is elevated to its own pursuit. Namely, loss not as something to be overcome, but lack as something to be staged, something to be enjoyed repetitively. Another example. Let's say you're playing a video game. Really difficult boss that you can't beat. Is the goal really to beat the boss? Or is the goal to simply play the same level over and over and over again? Which gives you more joy? Strictly speaking, this is what Lacan would call surplus enjoyment. And surplus enjoyment is the primary cause or outcome of the objet petit a. When you are staging your own loss, the repetitive drive of which lack is the object, you are enjoying this loss. In the same way that when you're playing a difficult video game, even though it brings you pain to be beaten, you're also enjoying it. You're hooked on it. Lacan therefore makes the argument that surplus enjoyment is the goal, if you will, of the death drive's pursuit of loss as its own object, namely the objet petit a. And here it's important to note Lacan's difference between what he calls a goal and an aim. They might seem the same, but there's a little difference. A goal is something's purported outcome or intent, i.e., why you claim to be doing it. Whereas an aim is the underlying secret truth of why you're doing it. Think about the video game. Your goal is to beat the final boss, to beat the game. But your secret, somewhat unacknowledged aim is to not beat it, or at least to take 200 hours beating it, to enjoy not beating it. And here, essentially, we can make the same argument about desire versus drive, or desire revolving around loss versus lack. In the Freudian theory of desire, namely that revolves around the object of desire constituted or predicated upon loss, we have a goal. The goal is to be reunited with the mother, to overcome the separation, therefore being happy. But the secret aim for Lacan is this. He says, wait, the easiest way to lose your desire is precisely to achieve it. I.e., as soon as you have it, it is no longer desirable. If separation is what constitutes desire, then overcoming separation will eliminate desire. Therefore, to uphold and truly obtain your desire, you have to increase the gap. You have to increase and prolong the separation. Therefore, whilst the goal may be to overcome the gap of separation, the secret aim is to prolong it, to extend it, to never reconcile it. And staging this gap is what Lacan calls subjectivity. The subject stages and expands the enjoyable horizon of its own futility and impossibility so as to derive surplus enjoyment, thereby giving itself a reason to live. That is the objet petit a, not the object of desire, but the object cause of desire, which is the object of the death drive, or the object of lack. I hope that's an accessible explanation. I would love to do another video where I talk about how Žižek relates the objet a and Lacan's ontology back to the Hegelian concept of less than nothing, so do let me know if you'd like to hear about that in the next video. Until then, thank you for watching, and please, if you'd like to download my lectures and my recurring ebook subscription service, take a look at my Patreon. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow.